Assalamualaikum, Pastor. How are you?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah. Doing well. How about you?
Very good, alhamdulillah. Here we are at the center again.
Alhamdulillah.
And we often have conversations about the role of the masajid in the community and its relationship with our students, to teach our students and give them skills. What do you see as some of the challenges in the masjid? Obviously, this is a generalization.
Yeah. So the masjid, again, without getting too technical, it's a place of prayer. It's a place you're supposed to do. Even the word itself is a place of sajda, where we put our foreheads onto the ground, a place of prostration. So its focus ends up being of providing an environment in which people can authentically connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's what masjid was supposed to be.
Right.
The challenges that start coming in is, well, who feels comfortable at the masjid? Where you have certain masajid in which, let's just say, they don't have proper women's accommodation. I've very rarely seen a masjid. Well, there are masajid that don't have proper men's accommodation either, but
That's true.
they don't have proper accommodation for women. So again, you're severely limiting who can end up coming there and connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There'll be masajid in which it's very age limited, where it's understood that as soon as you go in, that a certain age group will feel comfortable, certain other age groups won't. If you don't enter into there dressed like me, you're going to have a very, very difficult time at that.
A reaction, right?
So there'll be social kind of barriers that are there. Sometimes there's economic barriers to who a masjid serves. I've been, especially when I was younger, I've been to masajid in which being there and seeing the conversations that are even taking place at the khutbah level, I was like, what is going on here?
Right.
So there's sometimes intellectual barriers
Right.
of what is the minimum amount of information that someone can have, whether that's language, whether that's a degree of spirituality, in order for them to feel comfortable. That these all start becoming limiting factors, and when your masjid doesn't speak to you, or the administration doesn't look like you, or at least does anything to kind of welcome you in, you're like, is this a place that I can authentically connect with Allah or not?
Right. And I think even beyond that, I think that sometimes we enter into the masjid space and under the very well-intentioned concept of nasiha, providing sincere advice, some of our masjid community members, whether they be administration or just people in the community, offer a pretty strong barrier by, you touched on it, by judging. You're not dressed properly, you don't look like we all look, maybe even ethnically. And I think that's very problematic.
Yeah.
It's not the philosophy of ahlan wa sahlan, welcome to the masjid.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is welcome because this is the house of Allah. And I think that's very difficult, especially when you're young. And I think many young people, it is making an effort to go to the masjid. And then when you enter the masjid, you're told everything that's wrong about you, in somebody's opinion. And I think that's a problem.
This comes up in our classes quite often, especially on our spirituality night classes, in which one of the things we speak about regularly is topics of spirituality by their nature are humbling. So you approach them from a humble perspective, and even when you go to a masjid, you come in a humble state, and when someone in that state makes a comment for you, that is humiliation.
Yes.
Because you're already putting yourself down, and if someone else now puts you down, that hurts even more than if someone had done it on the street. So that's why it becomes that much more difficult for people to hear something or go through a negative experience when they were doing something in order to get closer to God.
Right. And I also understand the challenge. There are people who are good doers, and they're trying to tell you, maybe you can pray, your movement is not the way they believe the movement should be, or your dress isn't the way it should be. And I think that's just something that we all as a community have to reflect upon. What is the best way of teaching without humiliating?
Yeah. And that's supposed to be our legacy, was the anyone who was ever around the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that they felt empowered by being around him, not that they felt like he was taking the power away from them. And we make dua that our masajid return to be places in which people feel empowered, not places where people feel like their power is being challenged. I mean.